name is Abdurrahman. I'm a lecturer at a public university in Kenya. I deliver lectures in computing and informatics. In our last lesson, we talked about Java variable. And on that particular lesson, we discussed onto details what is a local variable and what actually it is an instant variable. And lastly, we discussed what is a class or a static variable. Today, we are going to start on another topic and ask ourselves what is a Java data type. And onto that particular journey, basically, we are going to look at the definition of the data type, and then we are going to look at the various types which are actually supported by Java, and finally we are going to implement one of those particular types. So let us start with that particular journey and try to define actually what actually it is a data type. Basically, a data type also refer basically just type. It can be referred to just like type. It is actually an attribute which tells a compiler or an interpreter how a program intends to use that particular data. So a type actually it's just an attribute that will tell a compiler what type of data it intends actually to use, and also it specifies actually the value to be assigned. So another thing also, it specifies the value which is going to be assigned depending on that particular data type. Let's take for example, if you want to have a variable of data type string, that basically will hold what you call text, and if you have a data type of the type integer, actually that will hold actually whole numbers. So it will hold whole numbers. So also can specify the type of operator to be used onto it. So, and there are different type of operators in programming. We've got mathematical operators, we have got what we call relational operators and logical operators. So basically it's going to specify. Basically you cannot say I want actually to have a string to be multiplied by let's say an integer. So you cannot have a string for example Abdul and multiply by an integer 2. It will give you an error. So that is about the data types. So let's go now and see what are the data types which are actually supported by Java. So here we have got our data types, and basically there are 8 of them, but let's try to categorize them and see what happens. So here we have what you call the primitive data types, and here we call what we call non-primitive data types. And the non-primitive data types, these are example, they can be strings, or they can be array, or they can be a class, and many others. While the primitive data type can be actually divided into 2, they can be divided into what you call the Boolean and the numeric. Basically, when we are talking about the Boolean data types, basically we are talking about data type that can be either true or false. When we are talking about numeric data types, further they are actually divided into 2, and this they are divided into characters, and they are divided into integral. So basically when we're talking about characters, these particular data types, they actually hold what you call letters, and when you go to integral, the integral part of it, they are further divided into 2 again. We have what you call integers and what we have floating points. And basically when you're talking about integers, actually they are going to hold what you call whole number. and floating point, they are going to hold what you call fractional numbers. And when you go back again into what you call integers, they are divided again into 4. We have what you call byte, and then we have what you call short, and then we have basically what you call an integer, and finally we have what you call a long. And then when you come to float, they are further divided into 2. We have floating points, they're divided into 2. We have actually the float itself, and then we have actually the double. So here basically we have talked about how many? 8 types of data types which are found into Java, and these are what you call the primitive data type. We have got Boolean, characters, and then we have got byte, short, integer, long, float, and double. Those are 8 of them. So let's see basically this particular 8 of them, what are their default value, and what they hold and what they do not hold. So if we have actually our 8 of them here, that is our Boolean. A Boolean, basically the default value actually it is 0, and it holds actually 1 byte, the size. And then when you come to the second one, here we are talking about it is a byte. Byte basically also the value for the byte, basically it is actually also 0, and the byte actually holds what you call 8 bytes. And then we can have the character. The default value, it is this particular value, and it holds 16 bytes. And then we have the short. The short, the default value also it is 0, and actually hold 16 bytes. And then we have the long. The default value it is 0 and hold 32 bytes. And then basically we have got the float. The default value it is actually 0.0, and actually it holds actually 32 bytes. And then we'll have up the double, which even the default value is 0.0 but holds 64 bytes. It should be understand that actually a byte actually it is 8 bits, and let's take for example one we're talking about bit, and it holds 8 bytes. Actually it holds what we call minus 128 whole number to 127. So basically let's go back onto our Eclipse and try to implement up the same. So let's take for example here we have what you call byte, data type called byte, and we have got a variable maybe called a, and we give it up a value of 127. So if you give it a value of 127, here we are saying actually we are within the range, because we know that a byte here it holds minus 128 to 127. So we are within actually we are within our range. And then basically what you say, we want to increment this a. So the formula of incrementing short form, you can say a plus plus, and the meaning of a plus plus is a short form by saying it a is equal to a actually plus 1. So that is actually the meaning of it. So we want to increment, it will be 128. And at 128, when we try to print system.out.println, actually if we print our A, we'll print 28, and 28, it is out of actually range. So it'll have up an overflow. So here we'll have up an we'll have what we call an overflow, and if we have up an overflow, it will actually loop back. So if you have an overflow, it will look back to our range. So there is no 128, so it will loop back to minus 128. So here it won't print actually 28, it will loop back to the range to minus 28. So basically this is how you demonstrate onto that. So let us run this particular program and see actually what will happen onto it. So this will actually overflow onto that. So let's put up before that here a system.out.println, and we print up our A. So this particular A, it will print as 127. This the first one, but the second one actually it won't print. The second one it won't print because it has overflow, so it will pin up within upper range. So let us run this particular program and see actually what happens. So when we run this particular program, as we expected, we have seen up the first system out.println, it has print 127. The second one, it did not print 128, it has the overflow and went back to this particular range. So that one comes to the end of this particular session, until into our next session, whereby we are going to talk about the Java tokens. So for now, I say bye until next time.